Welcome back to Brawlmaster Unscripted. This is the segment where I answer an assortment of questions, be they thoughtful or stupid. If you thought the last installment was too long, you're in luck. This one's more of a speed round. Here's a question from both Adult Neptune and Bradley Burke. Do you have a waifu? Maybe. Next question comes from Ninman. How many amiibo do you have? At the time of this recording, 37. Yes, 37. I don't have a problem. I can stop anytime I want to. But the thing is, I just don't want to stop. Next we have two questions from Just Passing By. Number 1. What was the very first video game that you have ever played, which may or may not have led you to trying out other video games? My first video game was Super Mario 64, and it's where my love for gaming began. Number 2. What do you think is the meaning of life? I believe it comes in 3 parts. The first is discovering yourself, who you are, what you love, and what you believe in. The second, accepting yourself so that you can defend your love and beliefs in the face of adversity. Finally, the third part is loving yourself to the fullest extent so that when your time eventually comes, you can die without any true regrets. Next we have two questions from Cody LaRoche. Number 1. What do you think of Mighty Number 9? I have no interest in it. I've been keeping up with it. I didn't put any money towards it, but I know all about what's been happening. And I do think for the sake of the people who did put a lot of money into it and have been waiting so long for this game, it needs to just come out already. It's getting ridiculous with all these delays to the point where this game is pretty much becoming a joke. And jokes are only funny for so long. So come on, we need to get this game out here. Number 2. Do you have a PS4? Nope, not yet. Next question comes from Throwback Jr. This isn't really a question, but if you could, finish this sentence with literally the first word that pops in your head. What is a man? A miserable little pile of pudding. I know what the reference is, but I'm not gonna do it. Next we have a question from Dan Connolly, or Connolly, I hope I'm saying that right, I'm probably not. Callie or Marie? I prefer Callie, but there's nothing wrong with Marie either. I still love them both. Next question comes from Colin Berkheim. What are your thoughts on Nintendo developing applications for iOS and Android? I'm pretty neutral when it comes to mobile gaming. I pretty much only really use my phone for calls and texting, and that's about it. I'm old-fashioned like that. I don't really have much interest in mobile gaming. I prefer to just keep playing games on a console for as long as possible, though I definitely believe that is very slowly but surely getting phased out, and companies are moving on from it. I don't really have much interest at the moment for Nintendo applications on these platforms, but I understand why they're doing it. I'm not faulting them for making this change. I mean, mobile gaming is hugely successful right now, so they just gotta go where the money is if they want to stay in business. I'm definitely understanding of where they're coming from with this, and I'm not saying I'll never be interested in what they could offer on such platforms. I mean, we know they're going to be doing something with Animal Crossing and something with Fire Emblem, and we all know that they eventually will do something with Mario and Zelda. I mean, they would be foolish not to. And of course, there is Pokemon Go on the horizon. That's coming out pretty soon, so there definitely is a lot of potential here. And I'm not saying that like I'll never be interested in it or that I'm fully against it, because I'm not. It's just that right now I'm just not bouncing off the walls with excitement for announcements like these, just because I really haven't been sucked into mobile gaming as of right now. So that could definitely change in the future. It just depends on what exactly they have planned and what they plan to offer in these applications. So I just kind of have to wait and see to form a full opinion on this. Next question comes from Matthew Cohen. What are your thoughts on Street Fighter V? I've never been able to get into Street Fighter, so even if it had been a complete and wholesome game instead of, well, what it turned out to be, I probably still would not really have been that interested in getting it. And I'm honestly not really that surprised that something went wrong with it here. I mean, have we forgotten that this is Capcom we're talking about? I mean, after their mistreatment of Mega Man with all the canceled games and just leaving him out to die, and then the whole Street Fighter Cross Tekken controversy with their DLC, I mean, I'm not totally surprised that Capcom would still be finding ways to screw things up with their games. I don't believe they're quite at like Konami level of bad as a gaming company, but still, they're kind of getting there, and that's not a good thing. I have been hearing that Street Fighter V in itself plays very good. Like, it's a very fun game to play, and it's just the biggest problem with it right now is that it doesn't have that much content. It doesn't have the content that should have been there from the beginning. So I definitely understand where these complaints are coming from, and I definitely do agree with them, even if I haven't played the game and I have no interest in playing it. But on a side note, I do find it pretty hilarious that Pokken Tournament outsold Street Fighter V. I just absolutely love that for some reason. Probably biased, but I'm sorry. I can't not laugh at that. Just Pokken Tournament, this game that everybody was so sure was not going to really be that successful because it was on Wii U, and yet it still managed to outsell at Street Fighter V, which has had so much more of a legacy than this up-and-coming small Wii U port of an arcade game. That's so funny to me. Okay, next question comes from Jordan Nantau. I probably butchered that last name. I have no idea how to pronounce it. I apologize. Are you a fan of the new series of Pokemon? If so, what do you like most about it? By series, I assume you're referring to the anime, and if so, absolutely. I love absolutely everything about it. I love how clean the animation looks and how much more it pops. I love how much more dynamic and visually engaging the battles are. The writing, I think, is the best it has ever been for this show. And even the filler episodes between the gym battles are just really interesting and fun to watch. We've got a great cast of characters here. Clement reminds me a lot of Brock. He's like kind of a combination of the best elements of Brock and Silent. Bonnie is a lot of fun to watch, and then there's Serena. Serena is such a great character. I absolutely am in love with her character arc and her development. I ship her and Ash so much. If these two don't get together, I'm going to be so upset, and I just have a feeling they won't, and it's going to break my heart. I'm waiting for it, and I'm hoping it's never going to come, but it probably will. I'm an emotional wreck right now because of these two and how well they work together, and just... I love everything about these seasons. They're just so good. I would love to do a list of my 10 favorite episodes from X and Y and the X, Y, and Z seasons, kind of like what I did for Indigo League a while back, but the only reason I haven't done it yet is that I'm just waiting for the seasons to end, since it's still ongoing at the time of this recording. I mean, even in the Japanese dub, we haven't even seen everything yet. We haven't even seen the Pokemon League yet, so... Even the English dub of these seasons hasn't been completely terrible. Obviously, you're going to have people that are kind of purists and will always prefer the Japanese dub over the English one, and that's perfectly fine, but for me personally, I think the dub has kind of come a long way from... Oh, what was the first season that kind of had this new dub? I think it was like the Battle Frontier season, and oh my god, those first few episodes were just god-awful. Like, you just could not stand the voices at all, but I think they've come a long way, and the actors and actresses have just really improved a lot. Especially Ash's new voice has just gotten so much better, and I think this performance for Ash in these past two seasons has just been absolutely wonderful. And I've just been kind of watching both, the Japanese dub and the English one. I watch the Japanese dub to kind of get ahead and watch future episodes, and then I watch the English one as they catch up, because I do prefer some of the voices, especially for the Pokemon. Like, I prefer some of the Pokemon English voices over the Japanese ones, and I prefer some of the Japanese human voices over the English ones, and vice versa. So I'd say if you wanted to get into this, you could watch either one, because I think that they are both good, but obviously some people will still tell you that the Japanese one is better. So maybe watch a little of both and then just decide which you want, because I think both are pretty dang good. But yeah, I just cannot recommend the XY season and the X, Y, and Z season enough. They are just so wonderful. I'm completely fanboying right now. I mean, if you have ever watched the Pokemon anime and enjoyed it to any extent, and you've been kind of losing interest in it, please, just give this season a chance. Give this generation a chance. It is really, really good. I promise you will find something you like about it. Please, please, please watch it. We need to support these writers and support the dub and support what they're doing here, because I think this new style, the way that they're approaching the anime now is so much better, and I want them to keep doing things like this. So, I mean, it's on Netflix right now, so go binge watch it. You have no excuse. I'm so frustrated. I keep telling people to watch this show now. It's good. It's so good. And yet nobody does it. I'm ignored. I'm feeling depressed by that. None of my friends are watching it. And that just upsets me. And I need someone to talk about this with, because it's tearing me up inside, as you can tell. So please do me a favor, if you like me at all, watch the X and Y season, give it a chance. I promise you will find something you like about it, because it's just so much better than it has ever been before. Okay, next question comes from Dirty Cleggy. What is your opinion on feminism, the men's rights movement, and MGTOW? Hey, I'm all for equal rights, but I don't really believe they can be called equal if they come at the expense of other people. That's all I really have to say about it. Next, we have 2 questions from Pikmin Warrior 454. Number 1. If a stranger came up to you and said, "Hey Brawlmaster 012, how would you respond?" I'd probably run away screaming in terror, because the thought of someone in real life finding out what I do on here terrifies me. I'm not a celebrity, people. I'm just a nerd on the internet with an obnoxious voice and long, drawn-out opinions. Why can't we just leave it at that? Number 2. What is the game you were most pleasantly surprised by, and what game disappointed you the most? I'd say Super Mario 3D World surprised me, because it turned out to be so much more fun than it looked, and when I played it, I had so much more fun than I ever thought I would from a game like this. And I've got an analysis up on that game if you want to find out more about why I like it so much, so go watch that. And then meanwhile, I'd say the game that disappointed me the most, it's kind of hard for me to say this, but I'd honestly say Mario Kart 8 is probably the most disappointing game I've played in recent memory. And I don't think it's a bad game. It's not. It's a very good game. It's great. It still has that Mario Kart magic. The courses, the DLC ones especially, are so much fun to play, and the visuals are the best they've ever been. But the character roster is just by far the worst the series has ever seen. It's got way too many baby characters, way too many reskins of Mario and Peach and Bowser. There are way too many obvious missing fan favorite characters, like Diddy Kong and Birdo, and I want my Bowser Jr., god damn it. Where's my DLC Pack 3 for that? It's just, I'm never gonna let that go. How did we get all the Koopalings, but we couldn't get Bowser Jr.? That just does not sit well with me at all. And even just complaining about the character roster aside, it also really does not help that the battle mode is complete garbage. I mean, come on. Battle mode is half the fun of Mario Kart. I mean, it's got the racing and the battle mode. That's what you know it for. And racing is only fun for so long. So if the battle mode sucks, and in the case of Mario Kart 8, it pretty much does, then you've only got half an enjoyable game left. And that's pretty damn disappointing. Again, I do like Mario Kart 8. It's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun with it. The DLC has been great. It looks beautiful. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't even just a little bit disappointed by it, because the character roster is garbage and the battle mode is terrible, and I just don't think those two things can really be ignored, because I think they do detract quite a lot from the game. Okay, next we have 2 questions from Burning Blaze 2149. Number 1, any thoughts on the Powerpuff Girls reboot? I haven't watched it yet. You guys know I don't really watch that much television anymore, except really maybe just for Steven Universe, but if I'm allowed to give an initial impression on it, I think that initial impression would pretty much be the exact same thing that the rest of the internet is saying about this show. I think it looks pretty mediocre at best. And I love how the writers say Miss Bellum is too inappropriate, so that's why they got rid of her, yet showing little girls twerking is perfectly acceptable. Okay, we'll roll with that. That doesn't make sense, but okay, I guess, if you want to do it that way. But I think if I want my Powerpuff Girls fix, I'll probably just stick to the original series. Thank you. Number 2. With all of the recent YouTube drama, what do you think of the future? Do you think YouTube needs a competitor? I'm not feeling too confident about YouTube's future, but it's not really because of the drama. That stuff is just whatever. It's all over the internet. It's not exclusive to YouTube, and it's probably never going to go away. I think really the copyright problems are going to be the death of this place if things don't ever improve. And I'm all for having competition, because I think that brings out the best in the products and the services we get, but I don't know if we'll ever see one that can truly challenge YouTube. I mean, there have been plenty of video sharing sites in the past that have tried really hard, but they just haven't stacked up to YouTube. They just haven't been able to provide that alternative that is accessible and enticing enough to really pull a sizable amount of YouTube's demographics and what have you away from YouTube itself. I don't know if there will ever be one that can truly stand up and challenge YouTube. But it would have to be something that's pretty damn amazing at this point. It would have to really kind of attack YouTube at its weakest points and say, well, YouTube does this wrong, but we do this right, and we have everything else that you love about YouTube. It would really just kind of have to be kind of a pipe dream at this point, because YouTube does so much and is so accessible to people, and that's how it became so popular. But I am completely on board with the idea of an alternative if it is good enough to threaten YouTube into really straightening up and fixing its problems and actively working to improve itself. If it can really wake up YouTube and really wake up Google and encourage them to really fix some of these problems that are plaguing it right now, I'm all for something like that. But I just don't know how likely it is for us to see something like that, for us to see a competitor like that, because we have seen competitors in the past like Dailymotion and what have you, and they've tried very hard, but they just can't stack up to YouTube. They just can't do what YouTube does best. So it's hard to say. Okay, next question comes from SonicFan22. Do you think SEGA should make their own Smash Brothers-like game with SEGA characters? I sure as hell would love to see that. What do you think? That sounds pretty good to me. I definitely think they could get away with having a roster of obscure and dormant franchises if Nintendo can do that. There would probably be a ton of Sonic characters, though. Just get ready for that. Get ready for potentially half the roster to be Sonic characters, because that's what SEGA is at this point. It's pretty much mostly Sonic and very little of anything else. I just wonder, though, how they would approach the gameplay for a game like this. I mean, we have seen a handful of Smash Bros. Clones in the past, and they've all had varying degrees of success. But just because you have a potentially great roster doesn't mean you automatically have a potentially great Smash Bros. Game. I mean, Cartoon Network and Sony had that potential. They had the potential to have really, really amazing roster of characters, but then their gameplay just wasn't up to snuff, and as a result, they just couldn't really challenge Smash Bros. And I think SEGA would have to put just as much effort into making a solid game as they would into having a really solid roster, even though they have the potential for that. And I do think that they could be capable of making a game like this. Personally, I think the racing games did some things even better than Mario Kart. So I think if you got the right people involved and got some interesting ideas in there and then execute them properly, you could have a really amazing game with this. And I would love to see a game that could truly challenge Smash Brothers, because yeah, I know a lot of people really don't like PlayStation All-Stars, and I've said a lot of negative things, and I've only kind of continued to find more and more negative things to say about it, but I do think, even to a certain extent, that PlayStation All-Stars did an admirable job of trying to take what Smash Brothers did and try to challenge it. So even if it didn't succeed, they at least tried in a really admirable way. They could have done it better, they really could, but they at least tried. So, like I said with the YouTube question, I'm all for competition because I think it brings out the best in everyone. I think it brings out better products and better services. So, go for it, Sega. If you think you can do it, I'd be watching. I'd be watching to see what you do. Okay, next we have a question from Amazing Jeffrey. Do you think people overreacted with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword when it was released on the Wii? Probably, but it's not really that surprising. I mean, look at how much backlash Wind Waker got when it was first revealed, and just in general, I think people will always be complaining about games and overreacting to them. It's not something that is exclusive to Skyward Sword, and that's just the way it is. It's probably never going to go away. I've got no problem with people not liking a game like Skyward Sword, especially after they have played it, as long as they give a reasonable explanation for why they didn't like it. I'm all against just petty complaining for the sake of complaining, and oh my god, you're such a hypocrite because you're complaining about Sticker Star and Color Splash, and to that I say let's not go into that right now, otherwise we'll be here for an hour. But yeah, getting back to Skyward Sword, I definitely agree. I don't agree with people just trashing it before they play it, but again, as long as they give a reason for why they don't like something, I don't really have much of a reason to complain about that. And as for what I thought about the game itself, I really can't say much because I didn't play Skyward Sword. Next question comes from Sam Walker. What do you think is the worst game for the Nintendo Wii? Well, there are probably a ton of games that are really awful for the Nintendo Wii, but the worst game that I have ever played on that system is Wii Play. It was an overpriced, glorified tech demo, and literally the only reason I bought it was just to get a second Wii remote. That's literally it. It probably, looking back, I probably would have just been better off buying the remote on its own, because Wii Play literally added nothing to that purchase for me. It was an absolutely disappointing game. Well, it's not even disappointing because I didn't have any expectations for it, but it was an awful game. It didn't deserve to be a full-priced game. The Wii Remote really saved it, if it had any sales. Okay, next question comes from Gaming Wizard. For the NX, what would you like to see as a main series Mario title? I know you said that you enjoyed Super Mario 3D World, so are you happy about them making a sequel to 3D World, or would you want a more traditional 3D Mario game similar to 64 and Sunshine? I just want an open world 3D platformer again, because it has been so long since we've seen one of those. I mean, I liked the Galaxy games, I did, but they just felt a bit too linear to me, so they didn't quite scratch that itch for a 3D Mario game that I've been having for so many years. And so I don't think I'd be all that thrilled if they announced that the NX was going to get Mario Galaxy 3. To be quite honest, I don't think that would really excite me that much. And I enjoyed Mario 3D World for what it was, I really did, but I just don't know if they could really do a sequel that would make it even better. I can't really visualize that at this point. I'll admit, I underestimated that game, and when I played it, I absolutely loved it, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want Mario's big NX outing to be more of the same. I would love if they would try something new, but at this point, I just don't know if we'll ever see another game like 64 or Sunshine again, because over the years, I've just kind of given up on waiting for something like this. I've just kind of given up on hoping that the next Mario game is going to be the one I've been wanting, the one, like, real sequel to Mario 64. I just don't know if it's coming at this point, and I'm kind of getting tired of waiting for it. Just moving forward from 3D World, I'd like to just examine future 3D Mario titles for what they are, instead of comparing them to what I want them to be. I know I've done that in the past, and I'm just kind of trying to stop that going forward. I'm trying to just not have any real expectations anymore, because that's just kind of how I'm approaching the NX in general. I just don't have any faith or expectations for it, because I just frankly don't know what Nintendo is doing anymore. So more and more, I'd like to just start sitting down, shutting up, and just taking the news and the announcements as they come, and just thinking about them later. Because I think being negative and pessimistic for so long has just kind of worn me out, and has just made me really numb, to the point where I'm just finding it harder and harder to care anymore. Mario, you do you. Just do what you want, and I'll decide later if I'm with you or not. Okay, the next question comes from Smash Bros 2009. Who do you think is the most controversial Smash Bros character that isn't a clone? Probably Bayonetta. I mean, people were so salty that she won the ballot, to the point where I think some people out there still haven't gotten over that, and that's kind of pathetic, and they probably never will get over it. And I also think that she was a really controversial character just in how she played, because she absolutely dominated the competitive scene for a while. And I say was, and I use past tense, because after her nerfs in the most recent patch, I don't really think any of that really stands true anymore, if it ever did. I mean, I don't really know how she stacks up to the cast anymore. She seems like she got hit with the nerf bat pretty hard, to the point where I think a lot of people are dropping her. And I think just a lot of the anger and the outrage about her has kind of dropped off, along with her potential. But man, for a while, her inclusion in Smash was just such a hot button topic for the community in just about every aspect. Like, just saying her name when discussing Smash Brothers just made so many people angry, whether they were upset that she won the ballot over a character they wanted, or they were upset that she had her 0 to death combos, or that she's so broken you can't escape from her stuff. And just, yeah, I think it's pretty hard to argue that there were any other characters, especially for this time around in Smash Brothers, that were more controversial than Bayonetta. Next question comes from Flame Alpha 100. How do you feel about Smash 4 finally ending with its DLC and extra additions? I'm overall really happy with how it turned out. I absolutely love that we got Mewtwo back and that he's not complete garbage anymore. I think it's very cool that we saw Lucas and especially Roy come back. That was really surprising. I just wish it hadn't been leaked. It would have been even better. The third-party additions of Ryu, Cloud, and Bayonetta, they were all brilliant. I absolutely love that. And it's also just pretty awesome with how many stages and Mii costumes we got out of all of this. Honestly, when I look at how much content we got this time around, I just feel kind of spoiled. That being said, I do feel sorry for the Wolf fans, since this was an opportunity to see him come back as well, and he just didn't. And I would have liked to see a little more diversity in the characters that we got as DLC, since we got so many human characters, but that's such a petty complaint that it honestly really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I think there were plenty of better choices for a first-party newcomer instead of Corrin, especially with how many Fire Emblem characters we already had before he was announced. And even though I have cooled down a lot about him since December, I'm still not really all that thrilled that he's here, and I frankly will not miss him if he does not come back in Smash 5. And finally, I probably would have liked to see maybe 1 or 2 more Melee stages come back. I feel like we got so many N64 and Brawl stages, but we didn't get really as much Melee love, and Melee had a lot of memorable stages too, so I would have appreciated for DLC if we had gotten like Fountain of Dreams or just 1 or 2 more Melee stages to kind of balance things out a little bit more. But yeah, overall, I have my complaints, but I am very satisfied with how DLC turned out. Okay, and the final question comes from Rinnick Bob Brawl 9931. What would you love to see in Sonic's 25th anniversary? Sonic Adventure 3, please. Or Sonic Generations 2, that works. Please, just something that doesn't suck. That'd be great. That's about all the time I have for right now, but fear not, because as always, there will be more questions answered in the future. So I'll catch you guys next time. This has been Brawlmaster 012, signing off.